Alright, this is Jeff Phillips with SmokingMeat.com, and today we're looking at smoking a brisket. And we're actually going to be smoking this on the Weber Smoky Mountain smoker, the 22.5-inch smoker. And not really going to focus on so much as the operation of the smoker today. I may do a separate video on that later. But I just want to kind of show you what I do with the brisket, how I trim it, what I do as far as rubbing and prepping it for going on the smoker. So basically, I have about an 8-pound brisket here, and I wanted to show you this is a packer cut. I want to show you the fat cap that you're going to see when you buy this cut of brisket. We're looking at probably 3/4 of an inch of fat right there. I'm going to actually trim that down to where it's about 1/4 of an inch, because that's really all you need. But I don't want to get rid of all this fat, because this fat is going to render while it's in the smoker. And it's going to give us a lot of flavor. It's going to keep the brisket moist during its long cook. Now, for a brisket, you're looking at about 1.5 hours per pound. So this one being an 8-pound brisket, we're looking at somewhere around 12 hours. It could be a little more than that, a little less, just depending on how the heat goes. But I'm going to go ahead and trim this thing up, and then I'll just kind of walk you through what I do to get this thing ready for the smoker. Cut right through that and get a large piece of that off. I'm not gonna try to get too pretty with this. What I do after I trim that fat, I'm gonna actually score this, because to me that really helps the rub get down to the meat. It helps the smoke to get down to the meat, and it'll actually be able to get to it from the back side. But I want it to be able to get from the top and the bottom, get that nice smoke ring. So I'm going to just score this, and what I do, I just kind of start going across it here, and I just kind of look down and make sure I'm getting all the way down to the meat itself. When I see pink, I just stop and just go across it like that, about every inch or so. And that's really all there is to it. And we're going to actually, from this point, once we've scored it, I'm going to do just like I would a pork shoulder or maybe some ribs. I'm going to put some regular yellow mustard on this brisket to act as a sticking agent for that rub. And I'm going to put some rub on it, massage it in a little bit, and then we're going to be ready to throw that right onto the smoker. Alright, we got this brisket all trimmed up. I've actually scored the fat here about every inch, this way and then this way, and just scored it down to the meat. And once again, that's just to help the rub and the smoke get down to where the meat is. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to rub a thin layer of mustard on this brisket, and then I'm going to put some rub on it, and that's pretty much all the prep we're going to do. All over it. Try to get some of that on the sides here as well. And then I'm just going to basically, we got some wind going on here this morning. Hopefully it won't blow all my rub away. Just put something like that. I'm just going to kind of move that around a little bit on top of there. Now what I'm hoping for is that rub will get down into those the score marks that I made, and that will just make it taste even better. Once I get this done, I'm just going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side, and we'll be ready to go. Alright, we've got the rub on the front and on the top and the bottom of the brisket now, and so at this point we're ready to get this thing on the smoker. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, a lot of people just put the brisket right on the grate of the smoker, and I used to do that, but I've gotten now to where I don't do that so much. I usually put the brisket in a pan. And my reason for doing that is I like to catch that the juice, the fat that comes off the brisket. I like to catch that because we can use that later and skim the fat off and use the juice as au jus to pour back over the pulled brisket or the sliced brisket, whatever we're doing. Brisket has a tendency to be dry, and normally it's not that dry if you do it the way I show you here, but any extra juice really just makes it taste better. It adds extra flavor. And so I've always used these aluminum disposable pans. Well, I found these in the store a while back on discount, and I thought I'd give them a try, and I've actually used them a couple of times. Just a porcelain pan here, and it's got this rack that can be used for ribs or brisket or whatever, but it holds the meat up out of the pan, so you're able to catch the juice, but then the meat is not sitting in the juice, so you can still get that bark, and the smoke's still able to get on top and underneath. So it tends to work really well. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this brisket. Now I like to put it fat cap up, and I'm just going to lay it right across there, just like that. All right, we're ready to put this brisket on the smoker. So this smoker, we're sitting right now at right around 220, 225. I'm just going to set this right here on the top grate. We got some good smoke coming out, and as you can see, this 22.5 WSM is plenty big enough to set a brisket on the top and the bottom. If I didn't want to use a pan, I could probably fit 4. And, replace the lid, and we're good to go. When smoking a brisket, I recommend you keep the temperature of your smoker between 225 and 240 degrees. I know people who keep their smoker a lot warmer than this, but I have actually tried briskets at 250, 275, and even higher, and to me you just don't get the same results at that high temperature as you do with the low and slow. If you're using a charcoal, electric, or gas smoker, one of the questions you're going to have is how long to continue adding wood and creating smoke to flavor your meat. I recommend that you continue adding wood for about 50% of your estimated cook time. For brisket, I recommend a wood that has a more strong flavor, such as mesquite, hickory, or pecan. You can also use some other woods if you like. You can use apple, cherry, peach, oak, whatever you have available. It's also okay to mix and match. If you want to do a mix of oak with apple or mesquite with pecan, that's okay. I do recommend that if you try something like that, to write down what you do, and that way if you really like the flavor that you get from it, you can always repeat it again later. When the brisket gets done cooking, you've got all this juice inside the brisket that is just under lots of pressure because of the heat that it's been under for the last several hours, and so you don't want to cut, poke, puncture the brisket in any way at that point. You want to set the brisket aside on a pan, on the cabinet, on the table, whatever, and let it sit there for 20 to 30 minutes to let that juice cool down a little and redistribute throughout the brisket, so that when you get ready to slice it, you're maintaining your juices inside of that brisket instead of just letting it run out. So what do you do if the brisket gets done earlier than what you had planned? Well, here's the way to remedy that problem. Let's say the guests haven't arrived yet, it's not time for dinner, and for some odd reason, maybe the smoker ran hotter than what you had planned, and the brisket gets done a few hours early. What you need to do is get you an empty ice cooler with no ice, and place a blanket or some towels or something in the very bottom. You want to take your brisket off the smoker once it's reached its done temperature, and you want to wrap it in heavy-duty aluminum foil. Then you're going to wrap it twice in a heavy, thick towel, and then you're going to set that in a pan of some sort and set that down inside of that empty ice cooler. And you want to make sure you fill in any remaining space with blankets, towels, pillows, whatever you have, and close the lid. And that brisket will remain hot, within the safety above 140 degrees for 3 to 4 hours after that. All right, we're looking at the brisket now. It's been in the smoker now just right at 13 hours, and it's looking pretty good. We've got a little over an 1/8 inch smoke ring there. Don't look bad. It's nice and moist, nice and tender. I just sliced a piece off here so you can take a look at it, and we're getting ready to take this in the house. So that's how you smoke a brisket.